Times change. The marketing landscape changes. One thing that's been solid as a rock for decades is email. For scaling brands, we find that 65% of revenue in Klaviyo comes from buyers. And on a 7-day last click, we find that customer retention is 10 times more cost-effective than ads. Conversion rate optimization is even more cost-effective. Translation: if you aren't doing email, SMS, and CRO, you're spinning your wheels on new customers and spending way too much to drive revenue. Unfortunately, with the growth of e-commerce and the onslaught of email, Gmail and Yahoo are making it harder than ever to reach the inbox. The cheapest customer is the customer you already have, so if you need help with this mess, come to pallethouse.co, fill out the lead form, and ask to speak to me directly.
In the inbox late night, glowing screens see the light. Email, everything feels alright.
We are going to do the first of perhaps many installments of Roast My Klaviyo. The way email has evolved and the way that inbox providers are tightening up on privacy, etc., you just really have to read the tea leaves to understand what's going on inside of a Klaviyo account. If you don't know what to look for, you could be in a situation where you think things are going okay, but actually not much is happening at all. Look at these open rates. You're going in and looking at your Gmail going, all right, click-through rate 2.3%. Actually, you are so far in the spam folder, you can't see the light of day. It's the world's best email and retention podcast, and I'm your host, Jordan Gordon. We are a member of the DTC network of podcasts and the philosophical home of the Pilot House email and customer retention team. If you want to make the sweet nectar of low-cost revenue a large part of your digital ecosystem, then follow us on your favorite podcast app today. This time, we are going to do the first of perhaps many installments of Roast My Klaviyo. After kind of looking at a recent audit, we went through and I had said to you, my beloved audience, that there are some really large accounts out there that think their Klaviyo is doing something and it's not. And I'd like to stress that, this is a result of reporting, but it is not like it's a result of Klaviyo specific reporting. It's just the way email has evolved and the way that inbox providers are tightening up on privacy, etc. You just really have to read the tea leaves to understand what's going on inside of a Klaviyo account. So if you don't know what to look for, you could be in a situation where you're rather large and you think things are going okay. You think things are happening, but actually not much is happening at all. And if you've got a big account and you've scaled quickly, the bigger they are, the harder they fall, right? So kind of just because you're big means you might actually be more likely to have a non-performing email system. So what I've done is I've taken some shots from that audit with some notes. I've removed any information, that could tie it to the party involved in the audit. There's no account information. There's no email names. There's no nothing. It's just the raw numbers. But these raw numbers will allow us to show you live how a really big account could think everything is okay. A really big brand could think everything is okay, but in fact it's not. So this will be the first Roast My Klaviyo, but what I'd like to do is use this one, which is just some information from our general day-to-day business. I'd like to extend this to you, the audience. And if you're interested in having us roast your Klaviyo, just come fill out the lead form, pilothouse.co, and let us know. We will kind of audit the account. And anybody who is selected for Roast My Klaviyo will get a free 5-email flow build. We'll build out your checkout abandon or something like that. We'll give you a free 5 email flow build in the new year. Obviously not right now in Q4. We're well engaged. But probably, launching into February after New Year, New You, we will build you a free 5-email flow build if we select you to roast your Klaviyo. So if you were already thinking like, I think this thing is probably busted pretty bad, and you were already kind of gonna farm it around and get it audited. Why not let me roast it live for the world to see on the internet and get a free 5 messages? Yeah, sounds like fun, right? Roast my Klaviyo. We're going to just dive right in here, all right? What do we see here? First of all, going into bounce, just for some background information, what do bounces mean? Well, bounces mean a number of things. Hard bounces are this address doesn't exist. It really, really bad. Hard bounces are very, very bad. And listen, if you're ever migrating from one system to another, here's like the cardinal rule when migrating from one system to another is to immediately go in and unsubscribe your hard bounces because the hard bounce data isn't in the new system. Whew, boy, don't learn that one the hard way. So, we got all these bounces. And what are we seeing here when we look at bounce types? Mailbox unavailable. So first of all, this is not great. It's not a great signal to Gmail and Yahoo that you don't even know if your audience can receive your emails. Not great. Not great. And this is the kind of compounding thing that can cause trouble with your account. You can actually sometimes get bounces just as I just call it like inbox provider indigestion, where you're sending them so many messages, they just start bouncing stuff. But mailbox unavailable, that's bad. That's just, I don't know, lazy, I guess, uninformed, whatever, right? It's a big gap. It's a hole in your game. Now, digging deeper, what are we seeing here? Look at these open rates. Who here, out there in audience land has been listening to the world's best email and retention podcast since the very beginning, right? If you have, you'll know these open rates, 22% Gmail, that is an anemic open rate. That is so low that you are definitely in spam, right? But look at that. You got that click-through rate, 2.3. That seems like a great click-through rate. That seems like a click-through rate like, hey, I think something's going on. I think everything is awesome, right? Okay, well, let's put a pin in that. And think about that really high click-through rate as we progress. Also, low open rate for Yahoo, low open rate for Hotmail, really high bounce rate. So Hotmail is just like bouncing you like mad. That's what I'm talking about when I say some general indigestion, right? And maybe some of those addresses that this account has from Hotmail are just really, really, really old. Address unavailable often means that the mailbox is full. Outlook, look at that horrible Outlook open rate. Outlook is like, look, this account is toast. Outlook wants nothing to do with you. In many ways, some stronger rules because it's a workplace system, but still click-through rate of 1%. Seems like an okay click-through rate. Yeah, put a pin in that. Think about it. Get down to iCloud. That's Apple. Huge open rate. Yeah, Apple privacy opens, right? So anybody out there in audience land who's been listening to the world's best email retention podcast from the beginning, Apple privacy opens mask everything. So if you got all these opens coming in from Apple, it can make it seem like you're doing something because that just pads your headline open rate. So here, when we look at this account, you're looking at your headline open rate. It's probably a little bit low, but it's lifted up by a whole bunch of Apple privacy opens, right? But still kind of low. And then you've got this click-through rate that's fine, right? Quote unquote, fine. Proton Mail, me.com, look at the Proton Mail open rate, 2.48%, deader than dead. Still an okay click-through rate though. Me.com, the only good open rate I saw. Click-through rate, 6.3%. 6.3%. Wow. And Gmail's doing 2.3, right? So I look at this. This is like, you guys can find this in your own Klaviyo. I look at this and I'm like, this is kind of one of the first places I go. And we talked about this a few episodes ago when I discussed another account that came through that looked like their account's doing something, but in fact, their account was doing nothing. And I told you exactly how to go and measure at what point people stop receiving your campaigns in recency. And in their case, it was less than 30 days. People stopped receiving their campaigns. I showed you exactly how to do it. Beloved audience, feel free to go back a few episodes. It was shot in front of the lovely lake in front of my sister's place. And so here, I discussed that this is one of the first places I go to. I go here, and this looks like you're seeing dead bodies lying everywhere. It's just a mess, right? What you want to see is a nice kind of, 50% open rate, 1.5% click-through rate. You know what I mean? If your click-through rate's too high, it means you're not trying hard enough to reach the difficult to reach addresses. This is not what you want to see. Okay, progressing. Hey, you know what? Let's look at the top 5 emails coming out of the automated email program. Because I told you, hey, those click-through rates seemed a little bit high for how low those open rates were. Those click-through rates seemed a bit high, and they seemed like the kind of click-through rates you'd see when you were thinking, yeah, everything's fine. My Klaviyo's doing something. I've got an email retention program that's functional. That's what you're kind of thinking to yourself, right? So I cover up the actual emails involved. We're not going to see what all these emails are called unless it's a completely generic name, like a Klaviyo default. But let's go in and let's check out the top 5 emails coming out of this program to understand how things are doing. By the way, I did go through and I made sure, like, are the top 5 representative? Yeah, they're representative. It's like this all the way down, right? But the top 5 should give us an idea if this Klaviyo is working, right? And you guys playing along at home, you can go and check this stuff out in your own Klaviyo and get an idea, hey, do I maybe need some help here, some professional help? Okay, cart abandoned. Number 1 email, right? 33% click-through rate, right? Yeah, and that's crazy. No cart abandoned email has a 33% click-through rate. And to prove that, I went online and I just asked Klaviyo, hey, show me your benchmarks, okay? Now, this brand, of course, came and talked to us because they knew they had some problems. They knew they had some work to do. They didn't realize necessarily how bad things were, but they knew they had work to do. So to be in the top 10% of Klaviyo accounts, those are brands that do not have work to do. They are running well, right? They're just cruising along. To be in the top 10% of Klaviyo accounts, you have a cart abandoned click-through rate of 13%. And this brand has 33. So this drives home that you need to look at individual email results. You can't just go and say, hey, look, I see a Gmail click-through rate of 2.3%. Everything must be fine. It's like, whoa, what's going into that 2.3, right? It's being pumped. It is being pumped by the number 1 email showing a click-through rate of 33%, which is certainly not real, right? The open rates are still high. The open rates are still high, which drives false attribution. So when you look at the top 10 placed order rates in Klaviyo's benchmarks, it's 7.69%. And this email has a placed order rate of 6.9, so pretty close to the top 10 for placed order rate as well. And this is like someone who recognized, hey, things aren't perfect in our Klaviyo. Didn't realize how bad they were. Certainly, this is not one of the top 10 placed order rates. I'm not showing you the email here, but the email has problems. Now, we'll go through segmentation that they were using in just a moment. It was, let's just say, a very open segmentation. And that very open segmentation pushed through lots of Apple Privacy Opens, which if you've been listening to the World's Best Email Retention podcast from episode 1, you know those Apple Privacy Opens drive false attribution, and also including bot clicks, and bot clicks drive tons of clicks, like massive clicks. So, let's look at that right here and just kind of keep this analysis going, right? So we don't really see, we're not showing how many members there were, plenty, right? It was a sizable account, but they were just sending to newsletter, right? So lots of systems use bot clicks to pre-click on links and make sure there's no malicious behavior. If you were just listening to our talk with Benny at senders.co, which is a phenomenal talk, go back and listen to it a few times to understand some of the very important points about deliverability that he was bringing to you. You can only hear it here on the World's Best Email Retention podcast. Then you will know that, for instance, senders are checking to make sure it's not a redirect going to another redirect, double redirects are bad, etc. They're just checking this stuff out to make sure everything's safe. And this is much more common now that we are in a less friendly world. And so the segmentation isn't doing anything about that, right? It's not doing anything about that. It's not doing anything about Apple Privacy Opens. It's just pushing stuff through, driving up the open rate and driving up the click-through rate, making it look like everything's fine. That was email 1, okay? Email 2. Okay. This email sent 522,000 individual sends in the last 90 days with an open rate of 13%. This is their second biggest email. Okay? So in the last 90 days, it sent 500,000 of this one email template, open rate 13%. So clearly, open rate 13%, it all went to spam because that 13%, that's just a bunch of Apple privacy opens. That's all that is. That's just, or, kind of the odd inbox provider that's not sending them to spam because they've got really loose spam rules, etc. When you see an open rate of 13% these days, that's like you're in mega spam. And actually hardly anybody is seeing that email. It's important to understand just how open rate is, it's not an accurate metric. It's an indicator. It's very useful to understand what's going on, but it's not a measure of how many people are opening your emails. That's not what open rate is anymore. So you understand. So yeah, in the last 90 days, open rate 13%. Like I told you, you should be seeing something like 50%. It should be something like 50%, for sure in the 40s, right? So they're all going to spam, right? Now, 19 sign-up emails got sent, 41 cart abandoned emails got sent, right? And then 46,000 of these in a 3-day period when those other ones were doing, 19 or 41, right? So this thing is just puking out emails that are going right to spam and just absolutely trashing inbox reputation, right? And I'll tell you what, I see this all the time, right? I go back. I've got a little spreadsheet. You pull the flat file, you drop it into the spreadsheet, kind of everything updates. I'm like a spreadsheet guy. And very often you're looking at flow emails sent and it's like even. And then boom, just this huge spike in flow emails sent, right? And then drops right back down. And then when you look at open rates and click-through rates in that month, it just totally drops like craters. And it's very often somebody sent like a reactivation kind of win back flow and accidentally chose a huge send size or did a back populate and sent to the whole list and just huge signal to Gmail and Yahoo, this sending domain is garbage. So you see that kind of thing all the time, right? What's unique about this one, it's just spewing it out all day, every day. So it's like constant of that. So, yeah, you out there in audience land, your Klaviyo may have some flow that's sending every day with some really bad metrics, really bad sending rules, and just grinding you into the ground. And you don't even know. You don't even know it's doing it, right? You have to look at your individual flow metrics and not just, again, open rate, click-through rate, because I just showed you. You can be looking at your open rate and click-through rate, everything looks fine, right? What did we see? We saw click-through rate 2.3% for Gmail for this brand. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's pretty good. Meanwhile, look under the hood. Whoa, it is just bellowing out these nasty emails, right? Let's look at the next top email. Okay, this is interesting. So look up top here, kind of in top middle. What do we got here? Click rate, 95.7%. Open rate, 92.6%. Click rate higher than open rate. How likely is that? Now, I'll acknowledge that in further discussion with this prospect, they did say that this particular email, it was part of a kind of a systemic where, it was really important to engage with it as part of the business relationship. So it would have a high click-through rate, like a very high click-through rate. Okay, all right. Higher than the open rate, right? And we just discussed that, like, even with all the Apple privacy opens, open rate, you don't usually see it higher than 60%. If it's higher than 60, there's usually something funky going on. Like you're just spewing in all the worst Apple privacy open addresses you possibly can at all times, right? Because you got some rule that just keeps including them and drives the open rate above 60%, which, by the way, Klaviyo says, hey, looking good, right? Oh, you've got open rate like 89%. Looks good. It says like safe. right? When like, no. You see open rate 89%, it's a flag. 92%, that's a flag. Because we all know how people interact with their email, right? Do you open every single email or do you throw a bunch away? Who doesn't throw a bunch away? When you're looking in your inbox, you're not looking for a reason to read an email, you're looking for a reason to delete it, right? So you just don't need to interact with it, and you can move on to the other ones that are more important for where you are in your life right now. So this is the third most important email. And what do I see? It's like, impossible. The results just don't make any sense, right? Here's the next email. The brand was running a new to site email, 73% open rate. So of course, crazy, right? People don't open their emails like that. That's not how it works. Back in the day when open rates were an indication of actual opens, it's 20 through 30. Now it's 40 through 60. You just double it, right? Because half of them are Apple privacy. Above 70, it's like, what? Especially like, look, it's a marketing email, right? This is not a transactional email. 40% click-through rate. Okay. Now, as we discussed, they're not doing anything about Apple privacy opens. They're not doing anything about bot clicks anywhere in their system. So that will explain to you why you get such a high click-through rate, because you never pull something out. If it's driving only bot clicks, if it's just a system somewhere saying, hey, is this the bad guys, right? Is this going to be a Nigerian prince trying to get bank account information or whatever those old emails were that we used to get? You know what I mean? Those kind of spammer emails. Is that what this is? There's these systems out really trying to figure that out these days. So, all right, 40% click-through rate. Okay, all right. And there were 2 conversions looked week to date. It was just like a kind of whatever. So I looked 2 conversions on this email. So I go in and I look at the 2 conversions, and look here, you can see for yourself. If you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're not watching on YouTube, don't worry. It's not anything. It's nothing really to see. It's just a bunch of screen grabs, but no clicks. So we've got an email with a 40% click-through rate. But when I look at the event history of the 2 addresses that placed an order, there is not 1 click, right? Okay. All right. So is it just that those 2 people happen to be from the 60% that didn't click? Or are those clicks not real? Yeah, those clicks are not real. And that's why when you're going in and looking at your Gmail going, all right, click-through rate 2.3%. That's why actually, it's clear that when you click through 2.3%, open rate 22%. Yeah, you are so far in the spam folder, you can't see the light of day, right? But it looks like everything's okay. Oh, my open rates are okay. My open rates are okay because I know I'm looking at this report and I'm saying, oh, open rate 72%. Awesome. Everyone's loving this, right? Oh, right. And I see, my headline click-through rate 2.3%. Whoa. Not real. Nothing about this is real. This is all ephemeral, right? Let's look at the next largest email. We've looked at the 5 largest emails in this account to figure out what's going on. Okay, here's one with a placed order rate of 14%. As we discussed, that puts it well within the top 10 performing Klaviyo accounts, right? This was an email for resetting the user's password. So this is like a transactional email. Already, you should pull password reset out of your metrics if you're running a password reset. Because, when somebody gets an email to reset their password and interacts with it and then places an order afterwards, you can't attribute the revenue to the password reset. Obviously, the revenue belonged to something else and password reset just got in the way, right? But what do we see here when we look at this password reset email with, $105,000 in revenue behind it, right? In 30 days. Like, oh, wow, look at this is worth $100,000. Yeah. No. So already shouldn't be there. We shouldn't be counting it. But let's go in and look because it is feeding into the aggregates that you would be looking at if you were running this or any of the emails we've discussed. If you were running those emails and looking at your account, thinking your account is okay, not realizing that, it's actually not. What do we see here? Again, click rate 73%, open rate 70%. Click rate higher than open rate because not doing anything about bot clicks at all, right? And all those clicks, all that 72% click-through rate, that's all feeding into that headline Gmail that makes it like, oh, these emails are doing pretty good, right? It's all feeding into that. Now, just look, I just went to the top kind of individual, right? The top user who was going through the flow. And look what we got here. And now we see some clicks, right? No, not a purchase, but we see some clicks. We see at 7:51 p.m. clicked email, 8:07 p.m. clicked email, 8:34 p.m. clicked email, 8:53 p.m. clicked email, right? Next day, September 30, 1 day later at 4 p.m., opened email. So this email had 4 clicks. This one user, right? Now, what is this user? This user is a real person or, a business account or whatever behind some kind of security system. 4 clicks a day before the first open. What is that? Right? Now, your Apple Privacy opens, they come in with a delay. They come in after the clicks, just because of the way it all gets calculated. You'll notice this if you watch what's going on with your Klaviyo. But look at this. These 2 opens are both exactly at 4:44, right? 2 opens at the exact same time. So what's going on here? Garbage. This is garbage. And then 2 clicks at 4:44. Right? So 4 events at the exact same second. All right, this is what happens when you don't properly filter your account. This is my last slide here. This isn't going to be a super long episode. This is the first, hopefully, of many Roast My Klaviyo. I would love anybody out there in audience land who would like us to roast your Klaviyo in front of the world. Just contact us. Come to pallethouse.co, fill out the lead form, say you want us to roast your Klaviyo. Anybody who's selected, we will give you a free 5 email flow build in the new year to thank you for letting us roast you. Obviously, we're probably going to, we're going to show the world your brand. It's possible for us to do it and not show the world your brand, but it's nice to be able to look at some emails if we're roasting and not only roast on data like I'm roasting here. It's really nice to roast some images. Anyway, if you're selected because you've got some good content for us to roast, the more content, the better, then we'll select you and give you your free flow build. So this was just, let's wrap this one up. We looked at the top 5 emails in this account. All of the top 5 were like deader than dead, right? Now, is this email program doing something? Yeah, it's doing something, right? Could we know what it was doing? We could not have any idea what it's doing. There's no way to have any idea what this Klaviyo account is doing because there's just so many false positives. Just like the previous one we were discussing, right? Where I showed you exactly, go back and listen, I showed you exactly how to figure out when people stop receiving your emails based on recency. How long will Gmail send emails to someone before they cut them off? And we looked at a brand where it was at most 30 days. At most, right? So if we ran this for this brand, we didn't. It was just an audit on that brand. They had everything in place that I was able to run that. We don't send campaigns as part of our audit. So that was, sometimes somebody has just the right segmentation in place that you can see those kinds of things. So in this case, I don't have that for this. But when you looked at those domain level open rates that we saw, so one was low 10%. Yeah, within 2 weeks to a month, everybody receiving emails from this Klaviyo stops receiving them. They all go to spam. That's what's happening. That's why you see a 22% because Gmail does give a grace period. They'll give a grace period and they'll inbox. Someone signs up, they'll inbox for a while. But on a very early recency, they'll say, we know that this sender sends to addresses it should not be sending to. They know. And so they just cut it off. So we don't have that analysis for this one, but I'm certain that's what we'd find. We'd find that it's sound and fury signifying nothing, to quote Shakespeare. There we go. First roast my Klaviyo. So I do hope that some of you will have the bravery to let us roast you on the world's best email retention podcast. And hey, entrepreneurs, executives, spammers, and webmasters, in the meantime, have fun spamming.
In the inbox late night, glowing screen, see the light. Email, everything feels alright.
Hey, entrepreneurs and spammers, remember, you can't scale without email, and the cheapest customer to acquire is the customer you already have. So please subscribe to the world's best email and retention podcast and learn how to make low-cost revenue a big part of your digital ecosystem.